All right, strap in, everyone, because today we are going deep on something a listener sent us about Discord. And let me tell you, it gets pretty intense.
Oh,
Yeah, so we're going to be diving into a listener submitted list of like all the annoying things about Discord. And
I
yeah, and we're talking everything from, those server rules that just make you scratch your head to that like, oh, so familiar feeling of dread when you get that at everyone ping in a server. We're
yeah,
going to cover it all.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
What I think is super interesting about all of this is that these annoyances, they're not just like little quirks, I think they actually like highlight this tension between our desire to kind of control these online spaces and then like the realities of, online communities being what they are.
Oh, for sure. And our user who sent this in, they did not hold back, let me tell you that. They came out strong right out the gate, and they called the presence of predators on Discord very disgusting.
Yeah.
That's some heavy stuff right off the bat.
It's understandable though, right?
Yeah.
You want to believe that online spaces, especially ones that are designed for, fun and connecting with people, you want to believe that they're safe.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that's not always the case. And, while predators unfortunately exist on pretty much every platform, I think it is super crucial for Discord to have strong moderation, to have clear reporting systems, and maybe even, some educational resources for users on how to protect themselves.
I think those are all really good points.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving right along, the next thing on the list is something I bet we've all encountered at some point, and that is absurd server rules.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, our user specifically calls out no politics, which, come on. In this day and age, that's like trying to, stop the tide from coming in.
I laugh because it's so true. But it does raise an interesting question, right? How do you create this balance between the need for a safe and inclusive community with the reality that people are, well, people, and people have opinions, and sometimes those opinions are very strong.
Right. Yeah. It's that like classic struggle between moderation and freedom of expression. And then sometimes you run into rules that are just like bizarre.
Right.
And it just makes you wonder what in the world inspired those rules.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder, though, that online communities, just like real-world communities, they kind of develop their own little culture and norms.
Yeah,
And what might seem weird to an outsider, could make perfect sense within that specific group.
that's a very fair point. Okay, get ready for this next one because this is something that I think will resonate with everyone listening, and that is the dreaded at everyone ping.
Oh, tell me about it.
Our user basically called it a migraine in notification form.
Oh, yeah.
I feel that on a spiritual level.
It's funny how something that was designed for convenience can quickly become a source of stress. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the psychology behind it's fascinating
Totally.
because, notifications are meant to grab our attention, but I think when they're overused, they can kind of have the opposite effect.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's like that friend who just keeps texting you nonstop when you're trying to like focus on something else.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, and you love them, but you also kind of want to chuck your phone out the window.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And it goes beyond just being annoying, though. Like all those pings and stuff, they actually fragment our attention, right?
Yeah.
And they contribute to feeling overwhelmed and burnt out. So it's
Mhm.
like, what can you do about it? Take control. Like
Yeah.
mute channels strategically, set up do not disturb times. Remember, you have the power to manage all those pings.
Preach. I love it. Okay, shifting gears a bit, our user brings up something that's become a huge concern, I think, for a lot of people in the last, year or so, and that's distrust of AI moderation. They specifically call out Discord's profile standing and feel like, the appeal system is flawed.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that taps into this wider anxiety about AI in general,
Mm,
especially when it has the power to make decisions that impact us. There's this lack of transparency with a lot of these AI systems.
yeah.
It's hard to understand, how those judgments are being made.
Right?
And when those judgments feel unfair, it's incredibly frustrating.
Totally. It's like being judged by a robot with no way to plead your case?
Exactly.
And if the appeal system is also automated, it feels like you're stuck in this loop with no escape.
For sure. For sure. Yeah. And I think it highlights the need for greater accountability and transparency when it comes to,
Mm.
to AI.
Yeah.
It's not about rejecting the technology altogether. It's about using it responsibly and ethically.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Now, let's get a little bit more practical for a second and talk about profile report scams, because this is something I think everyone needs to be aware of.
Oh, really?
But because unfortunately, these things are out there. And our user brought it up, so let's talk about it.
Yeah, well, these scams are classic social engineering, right?
Yeah.
They prey on our fears and insecurities to try to trick us into giving up, sensitive information. And in this case, it's the fear of getting your account suspended or punished.
Yeah, for sure. It's scary how sophisticated some of these scams can be.
Yeah.
But, just remember, legitimate platforms are never going to ask for your password or login details through, direct messages or anything like that.
Yeah.
If something feels off, trust your gut. Don't give them your information.
A healthy dose of skepticism is crucial online.
I agree.
Always double check who's sending you something. Look for red flags like typos and things like that. And definitely report anything suspicious.
I think those are all great points. Our user's next gripe is something that I think every writer out there, regardless of what you're writing, can relate to. And that is Discord's character limit. They talk about having to condense paragraphs to fit the 2,000-word limit.
Right.
So, what are your thoughts on that?
It highlights the fact that every platform has limitations.
Right.
I mean, Discord is primarily a communication tool for gamers, and communities.
Right.
And while it has evolved to include other uses, over time, those limitations are kind of built into its, initial design.
So I guess for folks who need more space for, longer form writing, maybe exploring some other platforms that cater to, that longer form content is the way to go.
Absolutely. I mean, there's tons of different platforms out there. Each one has its own strengths and weaknesses. It's all about finding the right tool for what you're trying to do.
100%. Okay, let's talk about a technical gremlin that can really, throw a wrench into things, and that is random mic disconnections during voice chats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our user wasn't sure if this was, a Wi-Fi issue or a problem with Discord servers. Have you run into this before?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Troubleshooting those kind of tech issues can be super tricky because there's so many potential culprits, right? It could be your internet, it could be server overload, it could be software conflicts, it could even be your hardware.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's like solving a mystery where the clues keep changing on you.
Oh, so frustrating. What are some things that people can do to troubleshoot this?
Well, the good news is that there are some general tips that tend to work. Like start by checking your internet connection, maybe restart your router if you need to, updating your audio drivers and making sure Discord is up to date can also really help.
Okay.
And then if all else fails, reaching out to Discord support or maybe a tech-savvy friend might be your best bet.
I think that's great advice. All right, we've got 2 more quick points from our users list: file size limits and the Quest feature.
Okay.
What do you think about those?
I think those are both really interesting because they kind of give us a glimpse into, Discord's evolving features and potential monetization strategies. File size limits, while they can be annoying sometimes, they are often necessary to manage storage and bandwidth, for the platform.
Yeah.
But the Quest feature, to me, that seems more like an attempt to kind of like gamify user engagement, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe even push people towards that premium Nitro service.
I hadn't thought about it that way before, but that totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, these platforms are constantly trying to find new and creative ways to influence user behavior and ultimately, generate revenue.
Right, exactly. It's a good reminder to kind of be mindful of those subtle design choices that can shape our online experience.
Very well said. Speaking of monetization, our user had some thoughts on the Nitro store.
Okay.
They called it a little excessive. And honestly, I kind of get it.
Yeah.
Because it can feel like you're constantly being bombarded with upgrade options,
Right. It's a classic example of the attention economy at work.
Yeah.
Platforms like Discord, they're all vying for our time and attention and, monetization strategies like those really flashy Nitro offers.
Yeah.
They're designed to, convert free users into paying customers.
It's like that feeling of FOMO, Like you're using the platform, but there's this constant little nudge that's like, hey, you're missing out on the real experience unless you subscribe.
Yeah, it's a very subtle but powerful form of persuasion.
It is.
And as users, we kind of have to be aware of these tactics and make conscious choices about how we engage with these platforms.
Yeah.
Like, do we really need all the bells and whistles of a premium subscription?
Right.
Or are we content with the core features,
Right. That's a great question to ask yourself.
Oh.
All right. Last but not least, Our user brings up an annoyance that I think is super common, and that's getting friend requests from total strangers.
Oh, yeah,
It's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it?
it is.
Because on the one hand, the open nature of platforms like Discord makes it really easy to connect with people who share your interests.
Right.
But then on the other hand, it can also lead to like unwanted contact.
Oh, sure.
And that feeling of like someone's kind of intruding in your space. Yeah. It's like that awkward moment when someone you barely know tries to add you on social media.
Exactly.
Do you ignore it? Do you accept it just to be polite? It definitely raises questions about online privacy and, setting those boundaries.
You hit the nail on the head, I think. It's really important to remember that you have the right to control your online interactions.
Yeah.
Platforms like Discord offer tools for blocking and reporting users.
Yeah.
So don't hesitate to use them if someone's, crossing a line.
I think that's really important, especially now. So looking back at all of these Discord annoyances, what really jumps out at you? What do you think really resonates the most with, maybe even your own experience?
I think it's fascinating how these seemingly like minor frustrations, they actually point to these much larger issues.
Yeah.
The tension between moderation and free speech.
Right.
The growing role of AI in our lives, the challenges of online safety, it's all interconnected.
Yeah. I think the point about AI moderation really hits home for me.
Yeah.
It's something that I've been grappling with a lot lately, just as AI has become more and more integrated into our daily lives.
Right.
And it's just that lack of transparency, and the feeling of being kind of powerless against an algorithm.
For sure.
It can be really unsettling.
Yeah, it's definitely a conversation that we need to be having,
For sure.
especially as AI continues to evolve.
Yeah.
We need to be pushing for, more ethical development and greater transparency.
100% agree. On a lighter note, I think we've all experienced the pain of that at everyone. Ping.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a digital siren just going off in your brain.
I know, right? And it's a good reminder that even these seemingly small design choices,
Right.
they can have a huge impact on user experience.
Totally.
Sometimes the simplest solutions, like giving users more control over their notifications,
Yes.
can make all the difference.
Couldn't agree more. This has been such a fascinating deep dive,
Yeah.
just kind of exploring all these little nuances of these everyday annoyances that we encounter.
It has been, yeah.
And who knew we could uncover so much just from a simple list of grievances, right?
I know. It's really a testament to the power of observation and critical thinking.
Right.
These annoyances, well, they might be frustrating, they offer these really valuable insights
Yeah.
into the complexities of, online platforms and our evolving relationship with technology.
I think that's beautifully put. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of, Discord frustrations, what's the key takeaway? What should our listeners be thinking about as they navigate these digital spaces?
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway for me is that even like something as simple as a list of, annoyances like this
Right.
can spark a really profound conversation.
It can.
And it's a good reminder that technology, it's not just about code and algorithms and all that.
It's about people and how we interact with each other, in these digital spaces.
100%. And I think, those interactions, even the frustrating ones,
Yeah.
they can actually reveal a lot about our values, our expectations, and the challenges that we all face, as we try to navigate this constantly evolving digital landscape.
That is so true. We have covered a lot of ground today, everything from online safety and AI moderation to the psychology behind notifications, and even those subtle ways that platforms try to, influence how we behave online.
It's been quite a journey.
It has been. And it all kind of circles back, I think, to this idea that we as users, we have a voice and a responsibility.
Right.
We can't just sit back and passively accept whatever these platforms, throw at us.
Right.
We have to be critical, we have to ask questions, and we have to advocate for the kind of online experience that we want.
I agree.
It's funny. When we started this deep dive, I thought we would just be poking fun at some common Discord annoyances, but it's turned into so much more than that.
That's the beauty of a good deep dive, though, isn't it?
It is.
You never know where it's going to lead. It's all about just like peeling back those layers,
Yeah.
exploring the nuances, and ultimately coming away with a deeper understanding of, the topic at hand.
Well said. So for all our listeners out there who are maybe now thinking about their own relationship with Discord and other online platforms, what's that one question you would leave them with?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think I would ask, knowing what you know now, how can you use your voice and your choices to really shape the future of these online communities?
Ooh.
It's a big question, but it's one worth, thinking about.
I love that. It's a call to action.
It
It's
is.
a reminder that we're not just passive consumers of technology. We
Right.
have the power to really influence its development and create online spaces that are truly inclusive and safe and enjoyable for everyone.
Exactly. And that's a goal worth striving for.
Couldn't agree more. A huge thank you to our listener who submitted this topic. It sparked a deep dive that was both insightful and thought-provoking.
It was.
And to all of you listening, keep those questions coming. We'll be back soon with another deep dive into the world of information. Until then, stay curious.